Welcome to Sandy's Numerology. I'm doing this recording on a very important numeric day because the 23rd adds to a 5 of May month, which is a 5, and I'm doing it in 2020, and if you put that all together, the day adds to a 5. But this is about 2021. This is about the world. This is the global energy of what is going to be happening. However, if you have a 5, the meaning is pertinent. If you're in a personal 5, it also has cause and effect. And if your age adds to a 5, it has even more effect. The number 5, this is one of the most difficult numbers. The positive of this is the word change. And 5s don't like change. They love living in old ways and the past. But it's about diplomacy, diplomatic, good manners. It's about the words marry, marriage, which is not necessarily about getting married. It's about how you marry with others. It's about import and export. It's about foreign, whether it is people, product, or currency related. It's about money and currencies. It's about the powers that be, governing bodies. It's about policies, education, politics, religion, and these policies, these governing bodies. It's traditional. It's about tradition. It's marketing, management, sales, training. The negative is that 5s, as I said, hate change. They like to enforce change, but they don't like change. It's about old habits, old rhetoric, old ways, old traditions. It is the racist number. It's arrogant, it has no empathy, it has no conscience whatsoever. It's about the con. The word BS comes into play here. Whether it's a con man or a con woman, and it's about companies and the governments, the countries, and how they are able to divert attention away from themselves. And a big warning here, it's about sexual predators. It's about the word cold, because number 5, as much as they are probably the best in bed, sexually speaking, but they will never be faithful. They don't know how to spell that word or the meaning of that word. But these people sleep at night. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. These are the bad habits, the addicts, whether it is about sex, drugs, gambling, barbiturates. It is archaic. It's also about the power or the negative power of the foreign powers. It's about, I might be repeating myself in some instances here, but it is the politics, politicians, political parties, governments. It's about new powers that will be emerging. It's about power games and this collapsing of the powers of governing bodies, industries. It's about the mismanagement, or it's about the management. It's about corruption, lies, deceit, and devious. So you have to start watching that there are people that are going to be misusing their power, and specifically even on the internet. But what is interesting about a 5, this is the year of exposés, the truth, whistleblowers, and the word camouflage. It's about capitalism versus human capital. It's race, religion, xenophobia. It's about language and education. It's all forms of education, preschool to post-school. It's about state-owned enterprises, municipalities, town councils, taxes, stock markets, banks, banking, finance, gold, one world currency, war, militant, military, policing, martial law, serial killers, non-profit organizations and NGOs, colds and flus. So COVID is here in 2020, but the 5 is where we've had H1N1s emerge, etc. And this could be another derivative of colds and flus. And I go back to the word marriage and marrying, and it's time to marry with others. This is about pricing wars, and 5 is about wars of all kinds. It's about the rights of people. It's about investments and disinvestments. It's about illusions and delusions. So that is very few positives there, because what the 5s need to understand is that their power is about to change. This is the energy of where we're going and where we've been going. And if you want to stay in the old and the past ways, it's not going to work for you. It is about change. And you're either going to be getting on the bus, or you'll watch the bus pass you by and there will not be a second bus. So it's time that this is a hard one to change your ways. And if your governments are not going to be changing their ways, the people are going to stand up and make that change happen. Will it happen in a day? No, it's an evolving process. But the 5 is where the change digs even deeper. And if you're not going to marry with your neighbor, whether it's your physical neighbor, whether it's a neighbor across a border or across the waters, then there's going to be huge problems because of the word wars. And this is where the powers that be, so we've got the Chinas, the Russias, the USAs, the UK thinks they have a lot of power. They've got weight, but they don't have power, so to speak. And the European Union, those powers are over. And who is going to be in charge? Where one seriously looks at China, how they've got into so many countries around the world. At the moment, COVID is making sure that one actually doesn't have that control, that power. So it's changing. So now it is not about falling in line with the likes of America and their power and following their power. It's about your country and you, and the power that you have within your country, so that you can create a future of change. A lot of politic things will happen in 2021. America is voting on the 3rd of November of this year. That could bring about old ways or changes. South Africa is voting in 2021 municipal elections, which will be the start of change or old ways. So this is a hard one because those words sound just like words. But when you go back to my 2020 videos pre-COVID and you understand the simplicity of the words that I used and then the reality of them, and then COVID also happened. So take the words very, very seriously. You're either going to be in it or you're not. That'll be the part one of what 2021 means for everybody. I'm going to be looking at South Africa specifically. South Africa was born on the 31st of May, 1961, which is when we became a republic. In 1994, we only changed political power, but our name of our country never changed. And as much as we were birthing a democracy, we still will fall under the Republic of South Africa. So where are we going? If you look at my South Africa 2020, that video is pertinent for now, more so because we are in a full personal year of what is going on within the country, but our age will now be 59. So the meaning of number 5 is important. But let's just refresh on what the 4 is. Structures, collapsing of structures, old ways. Where there are cracks, they are collapsing. They don't have a foundation and a solid foundation. They will not last. So they can only be restructured with that solid foundation. The word recession is now huge. And this is when South Africa, normally in a time like this, is fixing roads, fixing the structures within the country. And only if COVID starts to ease a little bit faster will we start doing this. And we've got between May 2020 to 2021 to do this. There will be new structures that are emerging, and we've seen companies that manufacture cars, for example, are now manufacturing masks. And started a lot of new businesses too. Many businesses are making masks. But the economic system is collapsing. And this 4 is about restriction, which we now know. But the country is using the COVID to emphasize the restriction because a 4 is about control. The 5 is about power, and that we have to be very aware of. When I said there was going to be job losses, we haven't even seen the beginning of that. It's about earth, metal, and wood. So it's about all of the hard industries and mining. It is about the earth. And we're hearing on, there's like 3 to 4 particular days in each month where there are earthquakes. And Mother Nature is at work and she is shifting the earth completely. Lots of destruction regarding rains. India's now recently had some terrible rains, and they have lost what we put into the earth and we grow out of the earth, and that is food. But it's also drought orientated. So water is going to become a huge commodity going forward for everybody, let alone South Africa. It is time to consolidate, simplify, redefine, get back to basics. And with this restriction, a lot of families have had to school their children, spend more time with their children, and reshape their diaries. They need new maps and new plans. It's about minimizing and downsizing. It's what we reserve and preserve. It's about manufacture. How do we live? What we do and how we do things, what we appreciate, and less is more. We go to our age being a 5. That's the import and export. It is the full meaning of what a 5 is. And because our age is a 5, it's about us going out into the world to do, or who is from outside wanting to come into the country to do. So that's foreign and finances and import and export. We're now seeing the word education. We're seeing stock markets and financial changes and companies who are being exposed, like Dis-Chem, for overpricing and being fined. It's funny that that money doesn't go back to the people that overpaid. It kind of goes somewhere else, which goes to government. Price wars. This is a bad thing. 5 is about state-owned enterprises, governing bodies, taxes, UIF, VAT. That's all changing. But there's a lot of false out there, false people who think that because they're titled or educated, are above. They're not. This is a 5 public year where there is discovery and disclosure that will happen of the lies and deceit. And we know we've got the Zuma case coming up. We've got a few other cases coming up too. And this will be over the next 2 years where there'll be a lot of exposés. This is also the misuse of power and the misuse of money. It's about whites' rights. It's about blacks' rights. It's about equal rights. And we get to we've got that pyramid scheme at the top. That's about the power. That's about a governing body and losing their power. That power is going to be inverted. But for South Africa, because our age adds to a 5 currently, when we reach 2021, we go into a 5 personal year, which means the meaning of the 5 is now impacting us personally. And to give you a little reminder of what number 5 years, some things that happened in South Africa. In 1967, the Terrorism Act was passed. Albert Luthuli died. 1976, Soweto uprising. SABC started. Eskom orders 2 nuclear power stations from France. 1976. Oof. We moved to 1985. The then P.W. Botha offers a proposal to Nelson Mandela for his release, which he rejects. State of emergency declared in 36 magisterial districts. And this is coming, South Africa. It's a kind of a test run with this COVID. In that time, there were explosions and bombs and killings, and mines were exploding, grenades were being thrown, house raids, the Delmas treason trial, Gugulethu 7 were assassinated. Just hear what I said there. This is what is 2021 about. In 1994, which actually is what a 5 is all about, is we voted for change. We voted for democracy. 90%, 95% of South Africa voted for it. And that's what a 5 means. It means change. So the people voted for change, and the ANC came in. 2003, Truth and Reconciliation report gets released in a 5-year, which is discovery and disclosure, about powers and misuse of powers. That year, Walter Sisulu died. By 2012, Zuma is slowly reaching his deputy presidency status into becoming president, and in 2012, Marikana happens. 34 people were killed and an estimate of 78 people were injured. Now, focus on that alone, because when you go back to 76 and 85, where there was this apartheid government, one wonders how much has changed in the sense of what happened at Marikana could be happening in South Africa in 2021 and could start in the January of 2021. But it will follow through to 2022. So we're sitting here with a 2-year stretch from May 2020 to 2022, 365 days times 2. And here we are. So now I'm going to be talking 2021. Basically, what is democracy? The ANC has failed. It has almost failed in every single way. It has created and maintained racial divide, racism, inequality. They've raped the country financially. They've created corruption as a new industry. They have mismanaged all SOEs. They broke. Municipalities are broke. 27 years in 2021. The ANC has not managed to create change, but the universe is now not interested whether you want to hold power or not. It is going to force change. This 5 is such a difficult number, and it creates intense difficulties. And if we are not going to use that word marry and marriage, marry with, we're all human beings. Equality and equal is about 2020, leveling the playing fields, leveling for people to understand about earning, on being entrepreneurial, not relying on government, or that there will be jobs out there. You now can actually work for any company around the world remotely. There's so many different ways of doing business, working in your suburb, your community, and supporting, creating a community group, finding out what they do for a living and how to use their services. But this 5 creates such exposure, but of untruths as well. And in the untruths are the truths. Depends on who you're listening to. And let's face one fact, it doesn't matter which political party, because the DA has basically, they might have achieved in certain areas, but have they achieved? The EFF, haven't heard from them. But they did donate 6 million to the Solidarity Fund. Wow. So it's about all political parties. It's not about them anymore. It's about the people, because that's where the power is. It's not with government. It's not with banks. It's not with companies and corporations. And we have to be a part of the change. We have to seriously look at, for example, the footprint that China has. As much as they came in here and helped build, but they came to get what they needed for their country. And they've got their fingers in many pies in many countries, but which is inactive at the moment, largely, not completely. We've got to start looking at not having cheap clothing from China. But we've also got to start looking at the price wars, where things are just going to go up, where the petrol price has gone down. It's funny, when the petrol price goes down, the prices never go down. So there's this whole balance is not there. It's about colds and flus. So we need to be careful. And I'm not necessarily talking about COVID. I'm just talking about colds and flus and new strains. We've got to watch out for foreign powers, because if we're going to have that unrest and the police and the military or militants, it's going to upset a whole lot of things. If your municipality is not working for you, you cannot vote for the party that is there. And the majority has been the ANC. A 5 is about whether import and export, whether you're wanting to move or whatever. No matter what country you go to, how do you adapt to a complete new country change? Job, money, rate of exchange. One world currency is coming. There's no doubt about it. America has spoken about it. I said already 2 years ago that by 2023 there's a one world currency. Doesn't change debt, I suppose, at the end of the day. But do we need to have an uprising? How can Cyril say that he has suddenly realized the amount of people that are struggling to eat in this country? Where has he been? Sitting in his high tower. When did he ever drive through Soweto? Or doesn't matter. What you see on the outside is not necessarily what's happening on the inside. Where's he coming from? That's very disappointing. and to create this racial divide in who can get UIF. If you've been paying UIF and you're now not earning, you should be able to claim UIF. But when a government of not many people, which includes the powers that they have, whether it's policing and military, etc., there's still more people than them. And are they going to fire on the people like they did at Marikana? I don't think that there's anybody in government that is actually in control. It's about dictatorship. And that's what we're seeing with the most unpopular woman in Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. COVID is going to be used and is currently being used as an excuse. For example, EdCon. Well, just look at the last three letters. EdCon should have closed 25 years ago. SAA, we know, should have gone years ago. You've got Alan Gray saying that they've lost all this money because of COVID. Actually, I opted out of them in January, and they were failing in December already, and COVID wasn't even around. But this could be a time of change on a negative where there's a change of policies. And that will be probably a presidential choice versus the constitution of the people and their choice. Banking. Oh, this is really, really a rough time we're going into. But remember 1994, where the world expected a war here between the people, and there wasn't. Generally speaking, South Africans are well-mannered, kind, generous, inviting, giving. We've got a lot of problems coming, and you have to make a choice of the change that is required from our turning point in 2020, which is the 1st of December of 2020, and we must have change by the 1st of December 2021, because we've still got 5 months into 2022 where we are still in a 5 personal year, and the difficulties will continue unless we are active in voting, not emotionally, not about loyalty. We are voting for what we want to vote for and who we want to vote for, and none of listening to this old apartheid rhetoric. 27 years. We always knew we wanted it overnight. It was never going to happen overnight, but 27 years later, this is kind of scary, because this could also bring, we know that our rates have changed. We know that we probably will go to junk status, but I think that anyway, the IMF, what's the point? Because they might as well junk themselves, because the rest of the world is probably heading towards a junk status. But a 5 is about the powers that be, but the loss of their powers. Do we need a war? We don't. We also don't need foreign powers to interfere from a war perspective. And when I talk about war, I'm talking about physical war, but I'm also talking about other wars. Currency wars, trade wars, fuel. The interesting thing is because I so believe that 1994 was such a magical year that people are tired of this, and will get more tired in 2020, and we are going to start thinking of new structures. Now, in 2021, all that negative of a 5, our age will be 60. And I've said this before, we're in our Saturn return from 1985 to now. So this either makes you very ill or affects your money. And we look at COVID making ill and affecting money and the ripple effect of money. But a number 6 is, because it's our age, is us going out into the world, which is out into South Africa as well as the rest of the world. But that 6 is what is outside and coming in. And this is a reconnection. It is about family and children reconnecting. It's about animals and mechanical, electrical, technical, chemical, inventions, architect, design, ideas, imagination, artificial intelligence, technology, holistic and homeopath. But it's also about virus, allergies, infections, homeopathy, holistic, vegan, vegetarian, and it's also about diseases. Nuclear, it's about bees, an important business for people out there to start. So from an import-export of us in a 5 personal year, and that's 6 in May 2021 to 2022, is connection or disconnection. Are we connecting? Are we allowed to import and export? Are people that are families who are not surviving in other countries because they're also failing, returning back? Are we allowed to travel? That's a very strong possibility. So I don't think the airlines are going to be up much before December of 2020, if not only in 2021. You might have internal flights, but external flights, doubt it. That import-export in our 59th year could start coming back into play. We've got the Hope of the Lions Rugby Tour in 2021. That will be interesting. Hopeful that we can have it. We look at Cyril. In 2020, up until 2020, November the 17th, he's in a double 4, which is incredibly worrying. But the video is up. It's very hard. He has some incredible highs of me being one of them, just raving, and then he's dropped down to a low right now in his shares, so to speak. He's got a tougher job because he is managing the ANC, and the divide there, and this want for power, and he goes into a double 5 in 2020, November to 2021. So the impact of the world, the impact of South Africa on him and him on us is massive. And the deceit that sits around him And there's a lot of things about Cyril that are going to emerge. I think there's a lot that is out there, and this will be an anniversary of Marikana, which is not good for him. So I don't know that he's done the right thing regarding Marikana as yet. Whew. This is probably one of the hardest kind of, 5 has got so much negativity. But in 1994, we didn't go along with it. We didn't follow the negativity, we followed the positive. But if the ANC is not going to change, then the universe is going to create changes, and so will South Africans. And it's funny that only a crisis produces real change, whether perceived or real. Your action is required. And no buts. COVID is not an excuse. Change of old ways is going to happen regardless of you. But you're either going to be in it to win, or you're going to stay in the past. And we don't need to hear the when we stories, because the universe is moving forward with us or without us. So to all of those words of what a 5 means, we are still like a 4, even though there's restriction and structure and rebuild and renovate and boundaries and foundations. The only word I can say that's good about a 5 is change. So we're going to have to be dealing with so many industries that are trying to hold on to power. The top companies trying to claim for the loss of business where they were losing anyway. So we now need to action. We can't wait for the government anymore. We cannot have a war. We're going to have difficulties. There's no doubt about it. We cannot give the powers that be any more power. Whether it's banks or political parties or municipalities or town councils. Many towns and cities in South Africa have been doing their own road repairs. That's what we maybe have to do. We need to marry with people. We need to join hands. We need to come together. But maybe what we also need to see is the real collapse of what happens when you can't have electricity, that there is no water running to your home. For some people, they don't have both. And the ANC should have fixed that, and they have failed. Difficult. Very, very difficult. Hopefully we'll be able to start our own manufacture of products that we have been importing and be able to export, because we are supporting, we are believing, we are buying, we are also traveling in South Africa. But if we have to have SAA with their flight prices, which are going to go through the roof, and nothing's going to change. They might want to consolidate SA Express with the Comair and the SAAs. Still not going to work. Things can't go through the roof price-wise. It's going to end. A lot of businesses are going to end, and they probably need to. So we have to be a part of change. No more racism, no more. It's just too tired to hear that old rhetoric. We all wanted democracy. We all want to be a part. And we're a very, very rich country in many ways. And we need to work forward. We need to work forward. We can't go back. So let's hope that in the new powers that emerge out of this, maybe it's Herman Mashaba's party. Maybe it's Musi Maimani's party. And their testing grounds will be in the municipality. And out of the two of them, let's look at who did probably the best job. And we heard it, we saw it, it was in print, it was on Twitter, is Herman Mashaba. He was hands-on in his own Black Like Me business. He was hands-on as mayor. We wait to see. August will be the launch of Herman Mashaba's party, and I will be doing the show on that. So for the negative that I've given out, that is what you don't have to do. But if you're going to sit back in your chair, it's going to do it to you. Change. Thank you for watching Sandy's Numerology.